Welcome to this episode of Divine Timing Coaching with Mercury Direct. We're going to describe what is going on with the skies right now, coming out of this big Burbo's basket that a lot of people have been talking about, but actually focusing a lot on what's coming next, which is Mars and Venus square. And this is going to continue some of our relationship challenges that some of us have been having during the Mercury retrograde. So I want to share this with you as well as talk about a little bit from my Sufi retreat I was just on and how we might apply some of the Sufi wisdom into the astrology right now. The Sufis are the mystical um, path of Islam, and the Sufi path is the path of love. Within Sufism, there is a practice of cultivating certain stations of what we call divine awareness or divine consciousness, taqwa. And one of those is shukr. And one of the names for Allah, the 99 beautiful names, is Shakur. Ya Shakur, the most, um, let's say the grateful one, the one we give gratitude to. And one of the things that we are looking at right now with the astrology is how we can be grateful for everything that has been coming up for us. It's been an emotional cycle for many of us. I've heard from a lot of clients and friends and online that this Mercury retrograde has been a bit hellish. And is that watery Cancer hell, which is very emotional, very process oriented. Let's break down what's been happening in the sky. I'm going to share the screen with you. You can see why this has been so challenging, and it has a lot to do with Mercury's position, because Mercury was the ruler of Mars and Venus, the god and the goddess, the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. And these planets are going to now actually come into a square. And even though Mercury isn't retrograde, he's still in Cancer for quite a while into August 14th. So I think we're continuing some of the energies that we've been processing, and we're trying to transform a lot of our emotions and work deeper with the emotional intelligence and building that out. I think that the next few weeks is really a key time to look at the synastry and the composite charts. So that would be you and a partner, whether that's business or love, how you affect each other through synastry. Different charts affecting each other, and the composite chart, which is the two of you as one. And this is also because we're headed towards eclipse season. And in eclipse season, we have, a lot of transformations for ourselves. Sometimes it's where we live, it's our careers, it's orientations and our life path, and definitely with relationships. So if we think of this right now in this last month and the next few weeks as we build towards the eclipses, this is a really powerful portal. And you're going to see what Juno and Pluto have to say about this coming in as well over the next week. So I'm going to share the screen with you so you can see this on the actual chart. And this is going to be today's chart right here. And okay, so what we've been experiencing, here's Mercury now direct stationing here. So this is the day, really. And this tends to be the day when a lot of pivots happen. They can be a little bit of chaos, can be challenging, for traveling, and definitely for communication or technology. I know for myself, ruled by Mercury, I had to deal with a bunch of cords not working yesterday and couldn't get them on my computer. So, but when we talk about Cancer, a lot of times we're talking about some emotional issues that are rising and can bring up, a flood of tears, a lot of grief. Cancer is a sign of grief. Now, the sun was in Cancer all last month. Now the sun is in Leo. And that should help us a bit to get more motivated and driven, but and more fun and creativity, right? And we have a real nice energy coming in with the sun and Jupiter. But before we get there, I want to talk about what's happening with Mercury, because this station, it's bringing up all of the energies we've had to process over the last June. Mercury was in since early June in Cancer. So we've had a long cycle, and he continues to be there until August 14th. And why this is important is because Venus, the goddess of love, is in Mercury's sign of Virgo, and she has been for over 2 weeks. And Mars, the god of passion and desire and will and the sacred masculine, has been in Gemini. Now, this has been also, through into June. This was happening. So what we've seen is that during that whole Mercury retrograde, Mercury, the ruler of Mars's position and Venus's position, was retrograde. That could be questioning our desires, our motivations, our drives, our sexuality, our passions, and questioning, reflecting on our relationships, our values. That includes money, that includes social life, that includes our partnerships, it includes our sense of beauty, daily practices. And Venus in Virgo is already a kind of a challenging position for Venus because she's more, you know, attuned to needing to improve things. She often sees where things are not working, like in relationships, right? Or order isn't happening. And so there's a critical energy that has come up for a lot of us in relationships. Um, Sometimes that can be negative. And and then the Mars in Gemini puts us in a position of, wanting to be curious about a lot of things and then questioning, like, is that going to make me feel emotionally safe or insecure? That Mercury retrograde in Cancer ruling that Mars. Um, Now, what's so interesting is as Mercury goes direct right now, then we also have that will help us get more clarity for sure. But what we're moving into is that Venus and Mars are gonna stay in a very long square to each other, and this is where we have to honor this energy of our passion and our anger, and we need to learn to transmute it. This is something I talk about more in the newsletter, but there's a really beautiful and deep Sufi text by a master named Razi, and he's talking about the importance of working with anger and passion. And this, whenever you see Mars and Venus square, you have passion. The God is challenging the passions and the desires are challenging the feminine and the values, sparking and igniting, which can be very chemically, romantically strong, that Venus Mars square. But also we have to be really careful with the Mercury function. So this can be the words that we use, the tone of voice, the style of communication, because we're going to be extra sensitive with Mercury and Cancer, as we have been. We can be emotionally reactive, and we can be really working on processing our inner child. And I think this is a cycle where we need to honor the love languages that we have. I always talk to my clients about Mars and Venus representing certain specific love languages that you're working with. Um, like Gemini, where Mars is, words of affirmation for sure can be a beautiful love language, to really praise and honor and acknowledge the uniqueness of your partner or their expression, especially as the sun now is in Leo, a creative sign. We may feel more like, really like appreciating like the way a partner makes a meal for us, right? Or with Venus and Virgo, acts of service. So we might appreciate and verbally appreciate, somebody doing the dishes, sweeping the floors, doing these simple things. Or maybe it's more about healing that they can do for us or we can do for them. And that idea of really stating that, you know and also an important thing here and for the next uh well, let's see. Let's move the chart forward, and you're going to just see how long this Mars Venus energy moves. It's quite a while here. So you're looking at, here's a week out, July 31st, very strong square, and then if we go another week, then we have a 3-degree separation. So we got at least 2 good weeks ahead. Well, maybe challenging weeks ahead of this Venus Mars square until she goes into her home sign of Libra. And I think this is going to be a big relief for us when she does go into Libra. And just shortly after that, we're going to have. I think it's just a week later. Then Mercury Oh, no. So Mercury will go into Leo here. That's gonna be on the 9th. So that'll be a big shift as well. Okay, so Mars Venus square. Um, our values getting challenged with what we want. Um, and let's bring it back to today. Um, how can we devote ourselves, Virgo, to a path of curiosity, Gemini? And instead of making declarative statements, this is how it is, this is how it has been, really getting into like, whoa, I feel this trigger, I feel this reaction, and what's causing that? Let's root this out. And as Virgo likes to see how all the parts are interconnected, right? And Gemini is a sign of mental curiosity, then this is why I'm saying looking at your charts deeper, human design, astrology, maybe some other systems. If you want to use Myers Briggs or Enneagram, um, I love these two tools because they're so exact and so specific. But that becomes really important. And what we're navigating on the level of Sufism is working with our nafs. And the nafs is actually the ego structure. Now, there's really 7 refined layers or levels of the nafs in Sufism, but we also have kind of a core 3 that most of the texts that do refer to the nafs are talking about. And I'm bringing this up because once the sun goes into Leo, as it just did, um, we have a very, very powerful transit in the sky that has some benefit and expansion and inspiration and growth, but also some real challenge to it. And it's a challenge around power and around control. And it really requires some deep shadow work or shadow play, as I like to talk about it, which is the sun is going to start to oppose Pluto and Juno and come to a conjunction with Jupiter. And this will be exact right here on July 27th. So that's going to be on Monday. Now, why is this so important? Because Juno is the asteroid associated with committed partnerships. She's associated with Hera in the Greek tradition. Jupiter, of course, was Zeus. And so you have the god and goddess of the Olympians, Juno and Jupiter, opposite each other. And whatever issue, I mean, this is the ultimate cathartic, dramatic, and possibly traumatic transit because it's an opposition, which is very tense between this force that wants to expand and wants to feel abundant and inspired, and this force that's wanting deep commitment, deep alchemical shadow work. You're looking at the very self-focused sign of Leo and the very community-focused sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is wanting some detachment and some perspective. This is why I like, looking at charts right now for couples, because that's an Aquarian technique, right? It's also a great Leo technique because Leo shows us who we are, right? Now, if we're just being ourselves and not really doing any self-examination, that could also be the shadow of Leo, where we're just very conceited or self-focused. And it's interesting that there's another asteroid involved here, which is Hygeia, because Hygeia is about health. And I think this has a lot to do with mental health in a relationship. And that's why getting connected with these levels of the nafs, the ego, which we see that can be very bloated potentially during Leo season, come up, real challenges for us with Venus square Mars. We need to look at the lower nafs or the lower ego, which is, demanding, commanding, very desire based, very self focused. And then we come to the next level of the nafs. This is where we get sort of a moral conscience around what we're doing, and we get that sage on the shoulder. The Stoics talk about this. We have the wise advisor start to come in that discerns, hey, this isn't really healthy for me. These ways that we might be speaking to each other are, do not feel like they're creating safety. Maybe we can offer up our relationship to a higher purpose together, not just focused on, uh, my potentially changing needs and desires, and you're potentially changing needs and desires. And we go into what did we come to create together, which is a very Leo question to ask. Um, but we have to watch that this Juno effect really brings in fairness and equality, and that soul contracts need to go deep right now. We need to process, and allow ourselves to transform, and at the same time, we may address all kinds of fears in this process. And that's where this text I was referring to by Razi, the Mirsad Alibad, is a lot about taking up the passion that we might have and the anger that might come up and redirecting that, alchemizing it towards a spiritual aspiration that we can share together, which is basically, you know, taking that fiery energy. Think of the Leo right now. Think of Mars, bringing that spark against Venus. And we go, look, I want to know truth. I want to be in service. And I want to do that with my partner. Um, and I want to be in service to you and to the collective, right? Think of that Aquarius energy. But I need to be recognized. I need to be acknowledged. Um, I need that love language of words of affirmation. But also, we need to be of sacred service to each other, and maybe some quality time. Quality time means we go deeper together. As we continue this work, then we go to the third level of the knobs, which is when we rest in God, in the divine. We know that we're being taken care of, that all is well. That only, as the Course in Miracles says, um, only love is real. And I'm gonna stop sharing the screen here. That no, that love holds no grievances. And we're going to have to deal with some grievances with a cycle, and then forgive. And that's another beautiful teaching from the Course, which is we're here to realize oneness. It's called the atonement, the at-one-ment in the Course of Miracles. We have to realize that, and we do that through forgiveness. And forgiveness is, I really don't know what this relationship is for. And every time I try to make a declarative statement of this is what it is, and this is what needs to happen, and this, we are really often operating from that lower nafs. And so we have to question that function. Who's in control? Who's in charge here? And really call on that witness. So I wanted to share this because, again, big Jupiter, Juno, Pluto, Sun opposition, Mars, Venus square, Mercury ruling that, still in this very emotional place of Cancer. So it's big, big energy over the next week. And there's a real potential for alchemy. So if you're interested in going deeper in your relationships, that's something I love doing with clients through coaching and consulting. And I have a session I'll link in the notes here around human design or astrology composite charts, the two is one, or synastry where you're affecting each other. I think it's a great time to do this if you haven't done it at all or recently. Wow, what an incredible tool to be super conscious in your connection and the levels you can go. If you've never done this, it really brings healing and empathy, and it brings intelligence, emotional intelligence and mental intelligence into navigating consciously your relationships. So that's our test right now. And I hope everyone passes with flying colors. And yeah, it's been great to share with you today. Next week, we'll have a journey into the August transits. And feel free to share this with your friends. I'm sure some are going through it. And all the best as we move into eclipse season in just a few weeks. So take care. All the best. Namaste.